Did you know that in the past decade, over 50 people have gone missing near a remote town, and not one body has ever been found? Authorities say it's just a coincidence, but what if I told you it's something else? Something far more sinister? What if I told you they weren't lost? What if I told you they were taken? Taken by something from beyond this world. Something none of us can understand. 10 years ago, I lived in a place called Ridgewater. If you blinked, you'd miss it. It was one of those towns that didn't even make it onto the map. A dot on the highway, sandwiched between endless fields and dense forests. Life there was simple, and for a while, peaceful. The kind of town where everyone knew everyone. Or at least, we thought we did. But looking back, I realize now that things were never as they seemed. There was something else lurking beneath the surface, something wrong. I should have seen the signs. Small things. Like the way the wind would howl at night, carrying with it voices. The way shadows seemed to move, even when there was no one there. And then there were the people. They started disappearing. At first, it was travelers, just people passing through. No one really noticed, but then it started happening to locals. Families, neighbors, friends, just gone. No trace, no clue. Ridgewater became a ghost town, but no one asked questions. We didn't dare. We just went about our days pretending that everything was normal. But deep down, we knew something wasn't right. And then, it hit me. I'll never forget that night. It's burned into my memory. It was an ordinary evening, too ordinary. My family and I were sitting at the dinner table. We were talking about nothing important, just the kind of small talk families have after a long day. And then, it started. This low, humming noise. At first, we thought it was a plane flying too low, but then, it grew louder, more intense. The plates on the table started shaking. We rushed outside, thinking maybe there was an earthquake, but what we saw. The sky, it wasn't right. The stars, they were moving, swirling, as if being dragged by something. I remember standing there, frozen. My wife grabbed my arm, my daughter was by my side, but none of us could look away from that sky. And then, in an instant, they were gone. 1 second they were holding on to me, and the next, there was nothing but empty space beside me. No scream, no flash of light, just gone. Like the universe had swallowed them whole. I can't even describe the feeling that hit me. It was like every part of me shattered. I was screaming, running, calling out their names, but there was no answer. Just silence, deafening silence. I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe I was hoping to find someone, anyone who could explain what had just happened. But the town, it was empty. Completely deserted, no one in sight. It was as if the whole town had gone still, like the world had paused, waiting for something. That's when I saw it, the old factory. It had been abandoned for years, just this crumbling relic on the outskirts of town. No one ever went near it. But that night, it was lit up, glowing, like some kind of beacon. I should have run the other way, but I couldn't. Something inside me knew that's where they were, my wife, my daughter. So I went in. The air inside was thick, stale. The floors were covered in dust, but there was a path, like something had been dragged through. The deeper I went, the colder it got. The smell, God, I'll never forget it. It was this mix of chemicals, metal, and something rotting. And the sounds. Faint at first, but as I got closer, I could hear them. Voices. But not like any human voice I'd ever heard. I'll never forget the moment I saw them. The aliens. They weren't anything like the stories, not the kind you see in movies. No green skin, no flying saucers. They were tall, too tall to be human, with these long, thin limbs and skin that shimmered like it was made of liquid glass. Their faces, if you could call them faces, were blank, smooth, with no mouths, no noses, just these deep, black voids where their eyes should have been. They didn't see me at first, so I crept closer. I ran. I don't even know how my legs managed it, but instinct took over. My mind was screaming, my heart pounding in my chest so hard I thought it might burst, but I couldn't stop. Every muscle in my body was screaming for me to keep going. I didn't dare look back, but I could hear them. The sound was unlike anything I had ever heard before, this eerie, rapid clicking, like a cross between insects chattering and machines whirring. It felt unnatural, almost alive. I knew they were behind me, closing in, communicating with each other in that strange, alien language. I thought if I just ran fast enough, If I could make it past the old streets and out of the town, I'd be safe. But no matter how hard I pushed, they were always there. The clicking grew louder, echoing off the silent buildings, filling the air with a dreadful certainty. I was being hunted. There was no escape. The air felt thick, almost suffocating, as if the very atmosphere had shifted under their control. My lungs were on fire, my legs trembling, but I couldn't stop. I wouldn't stop. I could see the edge of town in the distance, the dark line of trees that marked the outskirts. Hope flickered for just a second, a fleeting thought that maybe, just maybe, I could make it. But then, the lights came. Suddenly, the world around me exploded into a searing white light, so bright that I was blinded. It was everywhere, flooding my vision, burning into my eyes. I stumbled, throwing my arms up to shield myself, but it was no use. The light was all-encompassing, swallowing everything. I couldn't see, couldn't think, just flashes of white that burned like fire. My legs gave out, and I hit the ground, hard. The clicking sounds stopped. All I could hear now was this high-pitched hum, like electricity buzzing through the air, vibrating in my skull. The world felt like it was spinning out of control, and I couldn't catch my breath. My head throbbed, my ears rang, and the air tasted metallic, like blood and copper. My body felt heavy, like it wasn't my own anymore. I tried to get up, tried to move, but it was like my limbs were frozen in place. Then came the pain. I don't remember much, just fragments, flashes of needles, long, gleaming instruments cutting through the light. My body felt like it was being pulled apart, but it wasn't physical pain. It was something deeper, something inside me. They were doing something to my mind, to my thoughts. It was like they had reached inside my head and started ripping me apart, thought by thought. I could feel them, inside my mind. They weren't just speaking to me, they were invading me. Their voices were everywhere, not like words but more like a series of vibrations, pulsating in my brain. They were talking, communicating with each other, but I couldn't understand it. I didn't want to. It felt wrong, like I wasn't supposed to hear it, like my mind wasn't made to process whatever language they were speaking. I could feel them probing, pulling memories from my mind, rifling through my most intimate thoughts as if they were searching for something. Images of my family, my childhood, moments of happiness, all flashing before me, distorted, twisted, and broken. They were inside me, picking me apart like a puzzle, trying to understand what I was, who I was, and why I was there. Time seemed to lose all meaning. Seconds, minutes, hours, it all blurred together in that suffocating white light. I remember the pain intensifying, needles piercing into my skin, into my skull, like they were injecting something into me, some kind of thick, burning liquid that made every nerve in my body scream. The room, if I could even call it that, was sterile, too clean. There was this cold, metallic smell that burned the back of my throat. Every time I tried to open my eyes, I saw shapes moving, tall, lean figures bending over me, their glassy skin shimmering under the harsh lights. Their hollow, black eyes watched with eerie detachment, like I was nothing more than a specimen. I kept slipping in and out of consciousness, flashes of their machinery filling my vision, strange, twisting devices with wires and tubes, some connected to my body, others to the bodies around me. I wasn't alone. There were others, humans like me, strapped to tables, their faces frozen in expressions of agony and terror. I couldn't tell if they were alive or dead. I didn't want to know. And then, just as suddenly as it began, it stopped. The lights vanished. The pain subsided. Silence. When I came to, I was lying on the edge of the town, bruised, bleeding, barely able to move. My clothes were torn, my skin burned from where they had touched me. I was disoriented, my mind a fog of broken memories and pain. My body ached, but somehow, I was alive. I don't know how I escaped. Maybe I didn't escape. Maybe they let me go, as if they had gotten whatever they needed from me and discarded me like trash. But why? Why me? Why was I still here when everyone else, my family, my friends, were gone? I didn't know. I still don't know. All I knew was that I had to keep running, had to get as far away from Ridgewater as I could. But no matter how far I've gone, no matter how many years have passed, I still feel them. I still hear the clicking. Sometimes, I still see the lights. Maybe I never escaped at all. My family, my friends, they didn't make it. I was the only one who survived. I tried to tell people. The authorities, the media, anyone who would listen. But no one believed me. Ridgewater still looks like any normal town from the outside. People still live there, but the truth? It's buried deep, hidden from the world. And no one remembers what really happened. I went back once, years later. I don't know why. Maybe I thought I could find something, some kind of proof. But when I got there, the factory was gone. Everything was gone. It was like the town had swallowed itself whole, erasing all traces of what happened. And no one, not a single person, remembered any of it. It's been 10 years. 10 years since that night. And I still feel them. Watching, waiting. Every night, I wake up in a cold sweat, convinced they're coming for me. Sometimes I see lights in the sky, strange shapes in the distance. I'm not safe. No one is. What if Ridgewater isn't the only town? What if there are other places like it? Places that seem normal but hide something far worse. And what if they're still out there, watching us, controlling us? Be careful where you go. Some places are more than they seem. And if you ever find yourself in Ridgewater, don't look up at the stars. You never know what might be looking back. If you want to hear more stories like this, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. But be careful, you never know when the truth might find you. Stay safe, and watch the skies. Until next time, if there is a next time.